Happy Friday afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Chatbox Vale, the only podcast that we have here in our community that also focuses on all things mental health. I have two amazing people with me today. You all know partner in crime, Jen Sido, and our special guest tonight is Chris Romer. You might recognize the mug from all kinds of places, but he is part of the Vale Valley Partnership, as well as you also do a column in the Vale Daily, and you're a super popular online presence here in our community.
I'm something.
He's something else. No, but I invited you today because we tackle conversations that eventually lead back to our mental health awareness, our emotional well-being, and things that really just affect ourselves in our daily lives. And I love to follow you because you're raw, you're real, and you're very, you know what, you're not, I don't know if it is vulnerability because you just put it out there and you don't care. So I don't know if that's being vulnerable, because if you don't care, you're not vulnerable. I don't know. But I do think that the feedback you get helps you process some stuff that you put out there. Now, what I'm talking about is it mostly because of the Vale Daily?
It's because of, so what you're referencing, for those who aren't aware, I often share on Facebook, I call them kind and thoughtful emails that are usually neither kind nor thoughtful.
Right.
And we'll share a couple of those, but yeah, under the theme of bullying. Which isn't a term I've really thought about it in terms of the emails that I might receive.
Really? That's the first thing that came to my head is I'm like, wow, what a bunch of bullies, thumb thugs.
But clearly, it clearly is.
It is.
I just haven't framed it that way necessarily within my own construct.
You have more tact.
You know, to your point, Liz, I don't know that it's that I don't care. Everybody cares.
I know you do.
You should care.
I do know you do. It's just the fact that you can do it so easily.
Yeah, but when I get these love letters, if you will, I don't take it personally, because I know it's someone who's expressing their frustration over something that inherently has nothing to do with me, and I share those things in small part to process it, but mostly to share with others the bullying or the attitude that people take towards quasi-public figures in a small town. And I've been at the chamber at Vale Valley Partnership now for almost 18 years.
Wow.
And I accepted a long time ago that put me in a public position. Right, and writing a weekly newspaper column and talking about issues of importance to the community and to our businesses, it does put me in a little bit of a vulnerable situation. So yes, I care. I care immensely.
I hope
I care. I care a lot about community and about the people in this community and about the businesses in this community.
Right.
I care much less about a keyboard warrior sending me love letters.
See, first of all, how adult of you, right? I know Jen and we're pretty emotional beings, and I have to say that if I got notes like you did, it would crush me, even though I still have the same, I know, okay, so we all have a logical mind and then we have our emotional mind. The logical mind says, look, this has nothing to do with me. This is this person that's just spewing and they have issues. But then this part of the emotions goes, why are they picking on me? And what did I do to make them hate me? So it's a very hard dichotomy to process for a lot of people.
Of course.
And I mean, men, women, different, whatever you are, a lot of people do not handle criticism well or public displays of bullying. I had a friend who was in the local market one day, and it's just a quickie, but I can give you guys an example of what it's like. The temperature is like even here in our beautiful bubble. She was standing by a sushi bar in the market, and a woman walked by the sushi bar, pulled out a tissue, she blew her nose, and then she threw it on the sushi bar.
Oh my
A
God.
little disgusting, right? So my friend, all she did was she said, you know, they cut food on that. There's a trash right there. Well, this lady unleashed a world of hell on my friend. No, I mean, she started insulting the way she looked. She was screaming so loud that everybody was watching. My friend ran out in tears. Now, I would have probably said something too, but I would have been like, that's disgusting, lady. And if she had something to say to me, I would be right back in her face, which isn't smart either, which isn't any better than what she is. But I'm always like, I always feel that if somebody's going to attack me, I have to defend myself. But you take it to he takes it to this level of maturity and class and eloquence. You know, like
Who are we talking
I am
about?
actually talking about you. I don't know where those
Got it.
adjectives came from for you, Romer,
Yeah.
but no, I'm kidding.
I'd love to hear a sample letter.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Listen
Yeah,
to
let's
some of
dive in.
these, Jen. I mean, I tune in every week to read them.
Yeah, it's again. There's a lot. So let's find a few of the good ones. And again, these typically come to my email almost all, not all, but most are anonymous.
Really,
Right?
chicken.
Yeah, people don't put their names. It doesn't say first name, last name
Well,
at
then that's
Gmail.
just coward.
It's like, 123 ABC at Gmail.
So you
or
don't respond.
I will respond to people who put their name on it.
Okay.
Or people who have a baseline of wanting to have rational discussion.
Perfect.
I will not ignore people, but a lot of people are mean-spirited. So, for example, these are verbatim. I have a few words for you. Treason is a very serious offense and can be punishable by death. Repent now before it is too late.
Oh my God.
Whoa! What are you running for president that we didn't know about?
You might think it. I don't know. That was around a column that I wrote on healthcare.
And what does
Right.
that have to do with anything?
Apparently, in their mind, something.
Does that
right?
sound like a threat to you, though?
It does.
It sounds like a
absolutely.
death threat to me.
Yeah, my team was pretty mortified by that one. My team was pretty mortified by that one.
Yeah, I wish I had a team. I'd sick them.
But again, it's that one. They didn't sign their name, and that's easy to just put in the virtual trash can. And
Yeah, but don't you get worried about creeps like that are, I mean, do you know if they're out there lurking?
Well, yeah,
Or
I
they
mean-
just being not brave enough and just behind their keyboard?
I think that, and maybe this is the compartmentalization.
Yes,
I don't
you
even
were
know
close.
that that's a word. I'm making up words here on the chat box. If I'm just separating that in my head, I recognize that there are people out there. I think that the angry people are going to be angry, and if they're not going to be angry at me, they're going to be angry at someone else. If they're not going to be angry at something I write or something I say, they're going to be angry at someone else. And I say this sincerely. If this helps them to jot off a really mean-spirited email, then I hope it helps them, and I hope they feel better for a brief amount of time, because it doesn't. I can segment it. Let's be clear, like with these emails, and I'll share a few more.
Please.
They're never from a business owner that I know of. They're never from a member of the chamber. We have 800 members
Wow.
throughout the valley. We're the largest chamber of commerce between the Front Range and Salt Lake City. We have a high renewal rate, and our member surveys are very strong. We know that we're doing good work for the businesses and the people, our programs and
Who
people
matter.
who participate in our leadership programs and different things. Those are the people that matter to me. If they were signing their names and they were members for 1 month or 20 years, and they were saying these things, it would bother me a lot more
Right.
than if it was anonymous people using the internet for
Okay.
their own purposes.
Okay, can
So,
I ask you this before you read
Of
another
course.
one? What do you think, and I'm going to ask you the same question, what do you think everyone's mad at? Why is it? I mean, look, I get angry, but I don't take it out on people. I don't all of a sudden
Sure.
shield myself and become a monster. I have my anger stuff, and I work through it. I don't ever make somebody else's life uncomfortable or fearsome or anything like that. I mean, what about you?
I mean, honestly, it sounds like, some people, I think they don't feel powerful in their day-to-day. They don't feel like they can speak up. They don't feel like they can really, articulate like the issue that they're having in a certain manner. And so, when they're anonymous, then they can say whatever they want, and it's this kind of like release of anger or the, pain that they have without being able to articulate it, because maybe they don't know how to, maybe they can't, maybe but I feel like the same thing happens when you're driving your car. I've noticed a lot of, people with road rage, people that like,
Don't look them in the eye.
but are people who, at least in my experience, I've noticed people that have it really bad are not really good at dealing with their, they're completely different people behind if they were not
Right.
inside their little box,
Okay.
with the
All
horn
right, and I will take that and have it make a little sense to me, even though I think they need therapy. But
Well, of
what do you
course,
think
yeah.
everybody is angry at? Do you think it's a common denominator that has everybody up in arms? Or do you think it's just so many different avenues that the temperature has just changed in humanity?
I think the temperature has changed. I think that people, and everybody at some level is guilty of this, right? It's just
Sure.
where on the spectrum do you fall?
Absolutely.
Are you using a sports analogy, are you in the end zones? Are you on the 20-yard line? Are you in the 30-yard line, 40-yard line, midfield?
I'm in the batting cage. What does that mean?
I try, yeah, now you're in a whole different sport. But using that analogy, I think increasingly people go to the echo chambers of their end zone, right? And if you're not in the same end zone as them, you're inherently the enemy. And God help the people who are on the 10-yard line and not in the end zone, because those people get the brunt of it, right? If you're on the 10 or
Yeah.
20 and you agree with someone on 80% of stuff, boy, are they going to come after you for the 20% you don't. I try to live in the 40-yard lines.
I love that.
I try to live right between the 40s.
Have
A little bit here, a little bit there. Be flexible, be thoughtful and pragmatic. Have my core values and my core beliefs. But I think what's happening is this echo chamber idea.
Yeah.
People are joining the online forums. They're watching and reading the media
Yep.
that only agrees with them. And then it just becomes this cycle of perpetual feedback of all the things that everyone wants them to be angry about. They get angry about. And then it's real easy to take it out on a guy who writes in the Vale Daily, or, whose picture they might see in the paper, or whatever the case, whose email's there every week, who's very, very easy to find. And it becomes an outlet, right? To your point, it becomes an outlet of.
I get that.
And that's not to excuse the behavior.
No, because I was
the
going to say,
behavior's-
you're a good human.
The behavior is bad. I'm not going to defend the behavior. We'll read some more of these to set the stage. But again, it's the idea of, I think it's really easy to sit behind a keyboard because I think I've been doing this a long time, and I can think of one time that someone has come up to me and expressed a strong difference of opinion, but they were very respectful about it.
Oh, well, good.
It wasn't.
Okay.
It wasn't angry. It was like, I think you're way off base on this thing that you wrote about.
But if
I
they
said, okay, let's
come
talk
to you
about
and
that.
discuss it, it's fine, because that's
Yeah.
an adult way to come about
Of
things.
course.
I mean, and I'm not going into politics, but we have one side and another side, and I always wanted to be coasting down the middle, just so everyone could communicate. But it's like never. It just nobody hears what they don't want to hear, and nobody wants to say anything to somebody they know they're just going to be combated. So just with that one subject alone, and then there's so many other things that follow along with that, that I would venture to wish and hope that when people are frustrated and they have angst and a desire to lash out, maybe either talk it out or lash out at somebody who deserves it, as opposed to somebody who is trying to do good for the community.
Well, and nobody really deserves the kind of things like this.
I know. No, I'm just kidding.
So for example,
Let's go on.
this one's kind of funny. I think this one's funny. And again, verbatim email. Chris, you honestly couldn't be more of a douche if you tried. I mean, if that's your goal, well done.
Wow.
I like that one. That one's funny, right? Like that's.
I guess it's funny, but I mean, it's not
even
nice.
specific enough. Like
Yeah, like they don't tell you why you're a douche. You're just a douche.
No, I know. They leave it to me to figure out, and I got that one a couple of years ago, and I'm still trying to figure it out.
Drink more
I don't
vinegar and
know.
water. You'll be able to be
I don't know what it is. So here's, speaking of bullying, you look like a schoolyard bully who beat the shit out of a kindergartner and thinks you're tough. You make me nauseous.
Oh my God! See, that makes me want to cry. I'm sorry. I mean,
Don't cry.
It really hurts me because that is assaulting you as far as your person. It's not even talking about what your ideals and thoughts are. I mean, this is somebody that's just shaming you because they don't like what? I mean, first of all, you don't look at all like a schoolyard bully.
But I think that's the point. Sorry, go ahead.
No.
Like they're not are able to really hit on the issue, so they're just taking a low shot, right? It's kind of like lowbrow humor. Like if they don't, it's almost like I feel like there's a dopamine rush or hit that they get from putting out something like that, and if they get any likes, it's like it's like women putting a beautiful picture. The more likes they get, the more they
But these are
post.
personal emails. These aren't even like posted for public.
Oh,
I want to be an IP officer, an IP address officer.
Right.
Thank you, ma'am. I will find out who just wrote that horrible email. Right?
Yeah.
I don't know anything about computers, but I would love to be able to figure it out.
I'm sure someone could.
Somebody
and
could. Just get them. No, I'm sorry. You two are on the same wavelength a little bit. You both have more understanding hearts. Me, I take it to heart. I get mad. I get really vocal about it. And I literally loathe anybody that thinks they have the right to come at someone. And I think, and these are adults. Kid bullying, I believe, comes from home because of the parents. Not always, but there's a lot of that.
Or depending on their age,
Yeah.
figuring it out,
Right.
right? Like you need to figure stuff out sometimes. As a young child, you're figuring out your place and your limits, and you're pushing and you're pulling and you're learning. And as kids get older, there's definitely some of what you said.
Yeah,
but I
'cause
think
you
really young kids,
emulate your parents
when
a
you
little
see
bit.
this kind of stuff happen, it's emotional. It's pure raw emotion that they don't know how to cope with.
Because their brains haven't
that
even
that
fully formed.
manifests.
Right.
As they get older, I think it has more of that family function and the network function.
I saw it in my brother
for adults,
and my dad. He was
for
a
adults,
bully.
there's no excuse for it. It's bad behavior. Like, let's be clear. It's poor behavior.
How do you think we could turn it around? Do you guys have any ideas on what perhaps we could do to maybe add, I don't know, throw a little potpourri on these people?
I think what you're doing is actually brilliant.
Really?
Just by posting it, because I think calling a light to it and shaming it and showing in a way that, hey, like this doesn't affect me, like this is just like what I'm dealing with, I think is powerful, and it is a message to the people that think they're hurting you with these little like jabs and insults via email, and I think that if somebody has the audacity to send an email like that, then it should be made public. Like, hey, like this is what you did, because their power comes behind the mask and being anonymous. And so like, even if they see that it, made your Facebook feed, like that could cause shame for them. They're like, oh my God, like I know I wrote that. Like, even though it's, but it's, to me, that is a good way to kind of stand up for yourself in a way without falling, into the negativeness yourself, and staying positive and, showing people that you are,
And that's in large part, that's really well articulated.
Yeah, it is.
And in large part why I share them.
Yeah.
Is to expose this underbelly, if you will, of it's a very small handful, but it's
There's a group.
I get it. It comes to me, people sharing. You have the mental capacity of a peanut. You know, that I don't love getting an email that says that.
Yeah.
I mean, I may or may not, depending on the day and depending on who I'm compared to. I have no illusions of grandeur of ever being the smartest person in a room. But someone sending those emails, you're right. I think and that is why I try to share them, is to share that this kind of stuff happens here, to encourage people to do better.
To do better.
To just do
absolutely.
better.
It still has to help you process a little.
Of course.
I mean, I know that you say,
Of course.
you know, I take it with a grain, but we all have our emotional feelings, and I mean, I would lay awake at night with all those emails going through my head.
And I don't do that. When I do get them, I tend to share them with my coworkers. And,
Yeah.
Okay, guys, here's this one. Everyone gather around.
Oh my God.
And they're mortified, and I tend to laugh at it, because it is very hard to take someone serious who doesn't
I'm impressed by
share
it.
their name, who doesn't share the context.
Exactly.
I don't know if it was a business article, a legislative issue, a land use issue, a general column. I mean, I'm not writing about things in the Vale Daily that are typically, like, occasionally there's a land use issue or a housing issue that really gets people stirred up emotionally. But 95% of what I write about is community. It's about economic development. It's about businesses. It's about people. It's about the resources that exist to help people. It's about our kids,
Right.
and the tools available to them. You know, it's writing about new things that are happening that people might not know about. You know, I'm not writing.
You're not stirring things
I'm not
up.
stirring things up, typically. Right?
Unless it's in somebody else's mind.
There's a small percent of things that I recognize are hot button issues. Every land use housing proposal is going to stir up emotional issues for people that are near it. It just does. It's happened in Gypsum. It's happened in Eagle. It happens in Edwards, in Eaglevale,
Avon, for sure.
in Avon, in Vale. Like, we see it. It's and not just in this valley.
Right.
Everywhere.
Right.
Right? My friends in Topeka and Cincinnati, Ohio, and Texas, like, land use comes in and they hear about it because people are threatened by anyone living near them that isn't exactly like them. And there's data to show that.
There's wars
You
that
know,
have started just
back
about
to
land. So
back to your earlier question, Liz, and your earlier framing of this. There's research out there. I would encourage people to Google it. It's called Edelman Trust Barometer. It's a study.
Trust barometer.
Edelman, Edelmann, Trust Barometer, and it's a research study that's done across the world. I think it's every year, and they find an increasing amount of people who don't trust government, don't trust business, don't trust teachers, don't trust colleges, don't trust their neighbors. And they find an increasing number of people. It's a staggering, I don't remember the exact number, but it's a staggeringly high number of people who don't even want to live in the same neighborhood as someone with a different political belief system.
These are people with bunkers.
Well, it's also a crazy high number of people who won't date someone of the opposite political party.
Well, who would you
What
want to
a-
date somebody like that
What
anyway?
a sad reality.
It really is.
That these are the things that people identify as and identify with. Like, you should, I would hope, recognize that there's value in diversity.
Oh my God,
Diversity of people, diversity of thoughts, diversity of everything, right? We're stronger. You know, it gets this idea of, I'm going way off on a tangent.
It's okay.
We can get back to some kind and thoughtful emails.
We're just gonna beat Chris up later
But this idea of this melting pot, right? And
yeah, but they're trying to
me,
stop it.
well, the melting pot, I think, is a bad analogy.
Why?
Because melting pot, you put everything in and you get it down to its base level,
Okay.
where then everything's the same.
It's all the same.
I prefer the idea of
yeah.
I prefer the idea of like a potluck, or of
Ooh, I've heard of salad
of a
bowl.
salad bowl, where everything gets mixed in, and it's going to be a little messy, and it's going to be, you know, maybe that tomato doesn't belong in a fruit salad, And maybe maybe grandma's casserole isn't the way your grandma made it, and you're like, well, that casserole sucks because it's not Grammy's recipe. but you're accepting of the fact that it was a potluck,
Right.
and everyone brought their own things to the table.
I like that analogy
It's
a
much
lot.
better than a mixing pot that wants to change everybody.
Right.
It's embracing the differences. It's recognizing the histories, and coming together
Yeah.
as a group.
It's
And I think it's
weird.
much more powerful.
And growing up, the era that I grew up, my dad was Archie Bunker. So he was not your typical guy that you wanted to have a great conversation with unless, he was just an Archie Bunker type. It was just his time. But yet I've always been an equal opportunity dater or friendship person. I've never looked at anybody as they're outside. I don't know where it came from, because usually whatever you see at home is, but I'm telling you, like I love people, all sorts of people, and I feel like it's taken a big 360 in the last several years. People are all of a sudden much more bigoted, much more racially charged, much more bullying mentality. I just feel like humanity is just like, right now.
I think the pandemic probably brought a lot of that stuff forth.
Yeah, you're right, but I just think it also brought
I think
people
there's
together.
just a multitude. I agree. I think there's a multitude of factors that lead to this, and I agree with your premise that it's not a good place.
Right.
Right? It's not a healthy place. It's not really cool to get emails that say, if you really wanted to ruin Eagle County, Chris Romer should move down to the suburbs of Denver and destroy some land down there instead of doing it in Eagle County. And
Because you're responsible for all of it.
it doesn't make any sense.
No,
Right.
actually.
If I wanted to ruin Eagle County, I would stay right here.
I
Going
think they're
to
trying
Denver,
say, go to Denver and
going
do
to
the
Denver to ruin the land. If I wanted to ruin Eagle County,
Yeah, that guy.
and it doesn't tend to make a lot of sense.
Spin them around in a shower, they'll lose the soap. Forget about
Yeah,
it.
no,
What they're talking
exactly,
about.
exactly. It's a fun one. This one, Mr. Romer has demonstrated that he is spineless. I could amp up the VVP in 2 to 3 days on the job.
Did that person sign their name?
That person did.
I would say, come on down, show your
Yeah.
stuff, prove it.
I invited them in to have a conversation.
Did
they,
you?
they didn't take me up on it. But
Of course not. Oh, 'cause
I just wanted to pick their brains on how I could improve our chamber in 2 to 3 days, because
because you've been doing it
mean-
for 23 years.
well, 18, and we've been the National Chamber of the Year twice, and that's a pretty big deal
That
for
is
little old Eagle County
huge. It's
to have
great.
a group recognized as the #1 chamber of commerce in the country.
You guys do so much.
Talking to, and it's about our businesses, and it's about our staff, and it's about the work we do, but it's how cool for that recognition, not for us at the partnership. It's nice, but what's cool is it recognizes Eagle County as a place for business, and not just for visitors, and not just for the mountains that we're so
Right.
well known for. Being able to say, we have a Chamber of Commerce that's a 2-time National Chamber of the Year. That's pretty cool for our businesses and entrepreneurs and others to say, look, there's great things happening here
Yeah.
outside of the ski mountains and outside of the tourism industry. So it's pretty cool. So I wanted to pick his brain and just, hey, what is it that we could do
Have the
to do such a
stones,
better job in
show
2
up.
days?
Yeah.
Well, and that's the point too, is that, like all of this negative feedback, it's not constructive whatsoever. So it's not helpful. It's not moving
Right.
anything forward. It's not putting any new ideas into the ether, or
Could
not
have.
even
That
into the ether,
one
like
could have.
under eyes that are
Yeah.
who care and can do something about it. It's just, just inflammatory and nonsense, really. So it's like garbage in, garbage out. So I hope for your mental health that you're able to separate yourself from those comments, because in my opinion it's more of a reflection of them and their
Of
bad
course it is.
character than it is on yours at
100%.
all.
100%. Well, so thank you, and recognize that I'm still writing, still
you are.
talking with you
Yes.
guys. I'm still doing the work.
Yeah.
I haven't stopped or slowed down any of that. So I think that yes, it's none of those notes or those kind and thoughtful emails impact me too much. It's much nicer to get the ones that say, hey, you guys are doing a great job. Or the person at the grocery store who stops and says, hey, your column last week was really heartfelt, and I appreciated that.
Yeah.
That stuff, I get much more of a
positive feedback.
Much more of it carries me a lot more.
Oh, good.
Than any of the negative ones ever bring me down. They really, if you're not going to sign your name, if you're not going to share, if you're not going to share anything more than, a note like, you do not have any of the interests of the professional, hardworking, tax-paying citizens of your community. I will not be supporting you in the next election. I'm not elected. For those who didn't hear, I'm not elected.
Chris Romer for anything.
But this person isn't going to vote for me. Which,
well, you lost that vote.
Which sucks. Except I'm not running, so it's fine. I think it's.
I think people are almost a little dense. I want to add one thing to this before you read your next email.
Yeah,
the one thing that I love, because I told you I tune in every week to read these emails, but I also tune into your Sunday fights.
Yes.
Like he has Sundays are for fighting the best comedy movie ever done, and people will. I mean, you'll get hundreds and hundreds.
Oh, that's cute.
But this is my favorite part of the email day, the love letters. So many people rally and get right behind you,
sure.
And they come at the bully with their own rare breed of real good stuff. And I love reading the comments because it's all in favor of this man right here. Because I know you do great for your community, and I know you have a good head on your shoulders, and I know you don't fall prey to what people say. But if you get it enough, I mean, you hear one thing enough, it's going to affect your emotions. It's going to affect your day. I mean, well, it would affect mine. I mean, I had right here admit that I could not, I would be, every single email that was sent to me, oh yeah, MFR, because maybe I'm just not equipped to let it bounce off.
It's interesting, the genesis and the idea of the Sundays are for fighting. Mm-hmm. Sundays are for picking fights on the internet.
That's what it is.
Sundays are for picking fights on the internet. And it's a top 5 list.
It's always fun.
Of the most inane, ridiculous, silly things.
Topics.
Best cover songs ever. Best breakfast cereals.
I like when you do the songs though, because then I steal them and put them on the radio.
Best Saturday morning cartoons.
Oh, I remember that one. Wally Gator, and nobody knew who Wally Gator was.
And that is done very intentionally, and in my head, somewhat obviously.
Yeah.
To make fun of society.
And it's healthy,
and to make fun of this propensity and this willingness and desire to fight about stuff on the internet.
So dumb.
Or to send a chamber executive mean-spirited emails.
But what you do is fun and it's lighthearted.
But that's the joke within the joke. Because I don't care what the best cover songs are.
Right.
I don't care what the best 80 movies are.
The answers are the best.
I know that The Breakfast Club and I know that Back to the Future and I know the Goonies. I mean, I know that these are some of the best movies of the 80s. But I don't really care if you prefer 16 Candles. Right?
Right.
I don't. It
About
doesn't
last night.
matter. So let's joke about it on the internet. Hundreds of people.
And you can have fun fighting over stuff like
and
that.
We'll have fun fighting, and I'll call people out if they break the rules or if I didn't set the rules clearly enough and they find
so
a
much
loophole.
fun. I get a kick
we'll
out
celebrate
of
it. But then I get notes, even from that, saying, why are you so divisive with your Sunday? Why do you pick fights on the internet? And why are you so divisive? I'm like, do you really care about
Tell them it's because you're a douche.
any of the stuff? Like, these things are not, they're not meant, it is meant to be a mockery.
Yeah, it's supposed to, and if anything, it adds levity to the fact that we love to argue. People love to argue.
Yeah, that's
and
exactly
And if
right.
you're going to argue over something funny, like who was the best James Bond guy,
Yes.
it's fun as opposed to
Daniel Craig.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
there you
let's fight.
have it. No, mine was the first
It
one.
was about to come out.
So yeah, it's but again, the point being, it inherently doesn't matter.
Exactly.
You can have relatively spirited discussions without being mean-spirited, without being
Exactly.
hateful, without calling each other names. You know, you can do that.
It's
And-
real fun to see
disagree.
people turn your stuff into political. It could be something so.
Oh.
What's your favorite woodland creature? And somebody will somehow call you a rotten Democrat. What would happen? It's weird though, because I have seen that come
Of
to
course.
light in the real lighthearted thing. Somebody will just have to throw in something just dumb and political or out of nowhere for no good reason, and then everyone goes on the
and
attack.
everyone most people see that and respond appropriately.
And I love it.
Like, this isn't really the forum for that, and
Exactly. And
Whatever
I
the
love
case.
that. Yeah, this is not what we're
So-
talking about here.
so
Yeah.
no, it's good.
All right,
Yeah,
what do you
no.
got some more?
Oh, sorry.
Sure, yeah, no, go ahead.
You go.
I was going to say, I don't feel like this is just happening, like, you know, amongst your chamber, but like you see that, like, with Taylor Swift and Selena and just, like, this has become the way we communicate, like, in social media. Like, everybody has their opinion, everybody wants to put in their voice, and that, which is fine, but they're right. There's no debating that. And
Yeah.
that's what I feel like the problem is, going back to your sports analogy, it's
Yeah.
like this team mentality. It's like you're either on this team or you're not on this team. There's no in between. There's no gray area. And
so much for the umpires, you know.
So there's
because-
there's people, and I know some of these people. I think it's a little bit of a wild opinion, who think Taylor Swift is a Satanist and is grooming young women
yeah,
to follow Satan.
yeah,
And this is a real thing.
it's a real thing.
And then there are people who are full Swifties who are, and like, so those are your end zones. Both end zones are a little much for me.
What
Personally,
happened to the middle of the road, man?
I think she's a tremendous business person,
That is
a
right.
tremendous entrepreneur
Right.
who works really hard, and I don't care who she dates or who she didn't date and what she writes her fun pop songs about. She's immensely talented. She's brilliant.
Exactly.
And like,
And she's a billionaire.
These Satanist people can stay in their own little cave,
Wow.
and the full Swiftie people can admire her
She blows my skirt up.
for this and that, and that's good too. Like, it's okay, right? But like, I'll recognize that she's an entrepreneur.
And
She's
that's
immensely
exactly what you
talented,
should do.
and I will shake my head at these people, and I'll say,
Shake it off.
artists have inspired this kind of thing forever and ever. Weird to put all those eggs in the basket of a comedian or an athlete
Yeah,
or a musician or whatever, but if it helps you, good, fine,
Right.
good.
Yeah, you know who would start the biggest fights if he was still alive? George Carlin. Boy, would I love to see him in this climate of the day, you know.
His stuff holds up over time.
still does. No, if you look
can watch
back,
his stuff from 30, 40
you can-
years ago, and
it
it
gives you the chills.
still resonates.
It really does. I mean, there's nobody like that man, and so throw us another couple of these
You want
because
another
we
one?
want to we want to wrap up with some feel good emails.
Yeah, well, this one, this one again is kind of funny. I would do a handstand, a capital handstand. I would do a handstand seriously if you would just stop talking. That one's kind of good, right? So sometimes they're just fun.
Just put a microphone in your butthole and we'll.
Yeah, it's. Let's find another.
I can't believe people. I would do a handstand.
I would do a handstand seriously
Seriously.
if you would just stop talking. I appreciate the ones with a little humor like that.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's just weird. They're probably 80. That's probably why they said it, because you can't do a handstand when you're 80. Well, some people can, I guess.
Let's see.
What's your favorite one? Okay, no.
Ooh.
I don't want to say favorite because that's not the right way. But which one had the most impact on you that took a minute to realize, oh my God, I can't let this get to me?
That's a good one. Boy, I don't know.
Wow, that's good.
I mean,
then nothing's
it's-
hit him that hard.
No, it's I really can separate reality from
But that
emails.
death one really would bug me.
Yeah, that one bugged my team the most.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, yeah, people that care about you, which is great, you know?
Yeah, it's, so it does, I don't know what maybe, I don't even remember what it was. Maybe the first one.
Yeah. Oh.
Maybe the first one. I was like,
makes sense.
is this part of the job? Is this normal?
Yeah.
I remember years and years ago, like calling up some of my chamber friends in different parts of the country. Like, is this normal to get this kind of stuff? And almost inevitably, they're like, no, no,
Yeah,
that's not normal. But I'm probably out there a lot more than most are with the column and hosting a radio show for years and doing different things that
Well, I
I've
host a radio
done.
show. Nobody hates on me like that.
It's you're playing music.
I'm
and
just playing
stuff.
music. I'm not giving my opinion.
I'll just next time you
you
play
know many
Coldplay,
Yeah.
I'll send you a
Oh,
nasty
yeah,
email.
he hates Coldplay for some reason. It's really funny. It's really funny. But I am really glad that I don't have an opinion. I mean, I give my opinion on the podcast, and if anybody wanted to approach me or talk to me, I'd be like, I'll be more than happy to have a nice discussion with you. No, really. I mean, I love a good verbal discussion, But if somebody threatens me, I'm not happy, and I would never take it lightly, and I
Sure.
would never, ever, ever let them get away with it.
Yeah,
Just wouldn't.
And again, back to the idea of the theme of this podcast and adult bullying. No, it's not okay. But I'm not going to be able to solve anything
Sure.
by responding to them in an email.
I do know that.
I
do know that.
of course.
But there's different people.
But
There's
it's-
people that's
I
just
hope
the
I
way
can
we
do
handle
a
things.
tiny bit by sharing it online,
Uh-huh.
by pointing out how ridiculous it is to make people think. Maybe someone saw that and said, maybe I'm not going to write that letter to the editor emotionally. Maybe I'll sleep on it and then do it. Maybe I won't just respond with road rage. Maybe I'll like sit back for
Take a
a
breath.
hot second and take a breath and realize that thoughtful actions are maybe a little
love that.
more
Yep.
appropriate.
Well, breathing
So-
and counting to 3 are an actual huge deal. I
a
learned
huge
that
deal.
because like when people make me angry, I'm actually not, I'm always bubbly and everything, but I have a quick trigger. I have a quick temper. So I learned as a child to stop, nose breathe in, and count to 3 before I react. Because before I was doing that, I would just snap out on people. I was like a little Tasmanian devil,
So I write
So-
one of the columns I do every single year around graduation is advice to graduates.
Oh, I love
So
that.
I've been doing it for years and years. So I just put the final tune to that column. It'll run in a couple weeks in the daily
Nice.
and on our blog at the partnership. And one of the things I shared in this list of advice columns, which is by far my favorite column to write every single year. I just jot things down all year round and then I put it together in April or May. And one of them is when you're working with a group and in a project, always be the calm one, right? Because no one will remember for kids, for adults in a work project, in a collaborative process, no one ever remembers why you were stressed about the thing. The time, what it was. Like, you don't remember that project in college or that work project from 10 years ago. But you remember who the person was that never lost their cool. You remember who the person was that kept everyone together.
I bet.
And if you can do that,
Right.
and take that count to 3, that, like, all right, I want to freak out about this because this thing is due, and we're up against it, and it's going to feel really good to freak out. It's going to feel so good emotionally to freak out.
Sometimes
And it does. I get it. But you can't do it all the time, right? So
Or do it
if
in front of
you-
anybody.
is one of the pieces of advice to the graduates is always be the calm,
I love that.
cool, collected one. And I try to live that too. And
Yeah.
it actually, I do think that it actually probably makes those people who send those notes even more upset.
Oh yeah.
Because you don't react.
Sure, without
They
a
don't
doubt.
react the way that th're trying to get you to react.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I don't want to stir anyone up unnecessarily, but if it has that impact of stirring them up even more, that's just a little bit of a side outcome.
Yeah.
But the idea of, you think about any work project, any school project, anything you've had in your life when you're working with a group, and inevitably there's moments where people freak out and you want to freak out. And if you can stay calm and you can stay cool and you can stay collected and keep everyone together, focused on what it is you're trying to focus on, what a cool position to be in. Not easy,
Yep.
Yeah.
but what a cool kind of a position of power. Not power in a better than anyone, but like the power that you bring that to the group.
Yeah, to keep everybody motivated and keep everything moving forward in a good, communicative way, and everybody can get along. And well, we're coming. Believe it or not, it's been a quick hour. You are just one human. Okay, so I
Thank
just
goodness.
want, yeah, right. No, I would think it would be really fun as a twin. You'd have a lot of fun with the council. But what I'm saying is, Chris is one person. So imagine how many, whether you're famous or just anybody that people feel the need to target. Maybe take a minute and remember, because you're one person that I look every week to see what awful email you get because of the way you handle it and the way people respond to it. And I find some kind of healthy outlook in it, oddly enough. But my point is that you don't deserve to get notes like that or bullied or anything like that. And if anybody's watching, and if you have ever written a note to this man, I'm in the batter's cage. And not only that, do you have any more questions for Chris before we wrap up?
No, this has been great. Thank you so much for
course.
sharing your emails. Those are horrifying, but like I love that you've been able to turn it into something, positive, and the way your calmness, I fully agree with you that being calm in that situation makes you still come out on top, and it still makes you, in my mind, the winner. And even though I hate that, this winner, but against this attack. And, I really feel sorry for people that feel that they need to communicate in that kind of way, and that's all they have, is just, it doesn't solve anything to write that kind of email. It's not pushing any agenda forward. You're not even acknowledging that you are the person that wrote that, so you're obviously a coward. So to me, it just doesn't make sense hiding behind these really strong words.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like I'm actually taking something away from this because I'm obviously the type of person that gets triggered quickly. And I mean, I remember one time somebody wrote me something, and all hell broke loose because I didn't handle it well. So I'm actually taking a little lesson away from today from you. So I appreciate that. Maybe other people who are easily upset by things like that, because I just don't understand people, and I'm gonna work through it, and I'm gonna breathe that nostril breath and all the other good stuff. And for a final word, do you have anything to say and I just want to promote, obviously the Vail Valley Partnership. You guys do an amazing job for everybody. You can tell people where to reach you, and if you have any piece of advice for anybody out there to be kinder to each other, you have the platform right now.
Oh boy, thank you. So anyone interested can learn more at vailvalleypartnership.com. It's got our whole staff list, and it's got everything that we do and all the programs we run. So check that out at vailvalleypartnership.com. And I think my advice, or those parting words, is that I think it's really important to remember that if it's Taylor Swift, if it's politics, if it's where you're going to go to dinner tonight, whatever the issue is that people want to fight about, or a list of 5 stupid things on the internet on Sundays. People almost always have good intent, right? People come in and you may vehemently disagree, and it's healthy to vehemently disagree. What's not healthy is to be mean-spirited and to be personal about it, right? You support this person, someone supports that person. None of that matters in the big scheme of things. Understand that they have good intent. I've come across very few people in my life that didn't fundamentally come at things from a good place. I might find it misguided, or I might align with it 100%. It doesn't matter.
Right.
They have good intent. They're welcome to do it. I'm never going to change their mind.
Right.
I'm not going to work really hard to. I'll share my views and my things, and I'll try and stay open-minded to changing my opinion when the facts change. But at the end of the day, just remember that people have good intent, and these mean-spirited emails or internet attacks or whatever, they don't do what you think they do.
Well, I hope everybody's taking away from what you just said as much as I am, and I'm sure you are too. What a healthy way to exist. Chris Romer, everybody, this is the person that really, really has, you just have an amazing outlook on the way people should be treated with kindness. We don't always agree, but it doesn't mean that we have to fight and battle each other. Be kind to each other, be grateful for each other, and just look out for each other. Thank you very much. This was the Chat Box with Chris Romer, and we hope to see you again real soon next Friday.